Hello, guys. Welcome back to Basketball Fan. Today, we're diving into what could be a turning point for the Women's National Basketball Association, the commissioner's future. Let's be real, the situation is not looking good for Kathy Angelbert right now. In my opinion, Kathy might not survive the storm as the WNBA commissioner. Things have gotten messy ever since Anfisa Collier dropped that verbal bomb the other day. One that clearly carried the same fire and frustration that we've seen from Caitlin Clark, even if Clark herself didn't say it out loud. When one of the league's brightest stars, like Caitlin Clark, starts hinting at the need for new leadership, you know there's trouble brewing. The fan base is restless, the players are frustrated, and the calls for accountability are getting louder. But here's where things get even more interesting. The spotlight is starting to shift. People aren't just looking at Kathy Angelbert anymore. They're turning their attention toward NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, and that's a big deal. The moment people start suggesting that Silver might share some of the blame for what's happening in the WNBA, it's a sign that the pressure is spreading fast. If this narrative continues to grow, don't be surprised if there's a major shakeup soon. Once the NBA's top brass starts feeling the heat, Kathy Angelbert's time as commissioner might end sooner than expected. So yeah, buckle up. The next few weeks could define the future of the WNBA's leadership. You see this? Yeah, this is from The Athletic. By the way, The Athletic is owned by the New York Times. Yikes. Yikes. You already know when they start reporting like this. It's serious. The pressure is officially on. It's officially boiling over. Kathy Angelbert might not just be the WNBA's past. She might not even be its present for much longer. It's a wrap. It's done. Absolutely done. Now, let's break this down. Under Kathy Angelbert's watch, the WNBA did pull off some major financial milestones. In 2022, she helped secure a $75 million capital raise, the league's first ever. Then $25 million in franchise fees. That's insane. The new buy-in price is now $250 million, up another $50 million from just last year. And in 2024 alone, the league generated $76 million in sponsorship revenue. Those are massive numbers on paper. But here's the problem. For a league closing in on 30 years old, they're still not turning a profit. Not one. So, where is all that momentum leading? If you're a PR exec, you'd probably be typing up a press release about record-breaking sponsorships. But behind the curtain, it's chaos. Under Angelbert, sure, the WNBA had its biggest blow-up, but her support vanishing. She's got fewer allies than a vegan at a barbecue. Nobody, and I mean nobody, seems to be in her corner anymore. And now, even more concerning, the players are turning on her. That's the part that's lethal. Owners care about revenue. Players care about leadership. And when both sides stop backing you, it's game over. Remember, the commissioner doesn't technically work for the fans. She works for the owners. The same way Adam Silver works for the NBA owners. And here's the reality. WNBA ownership groups, they're done backing Kathy Angelbert. Earlier this week, Lynx star Anfisa Collier threw a massive bomb into the mix, calling WNBA leadership the worst in the world. She didn't hold back. She absolutely torched Kathy Angelbert's reputation, accusing her of being disconnected, indifferent toward the players, and more focused on polishing the league's image than making real progress. That's not some offhand jab. That's a full-on call for a regime change. And here's where it gets serious. Because Angelbert reports directly to Adam Silver, The Athletic reached out to NBA insiders to see if her days as commissioner are numbered. Privately, many of them said the same thing. Collier may have just triggered a wave that accelerates what was already coming. Angelbert was already on shaky ground, and now the timeline for change might just speed up dramatically. Even NBA owners, some of the same individuals who hold stakes in both the NBA and the WNBA, are reportedly fine with the idea of finding a new face to lead the WNBA. That's not normal. Usually, ownership backs their commissioner to the very end. But when the people who employ the commissioner are already ready to move on, it's basically game over. A commissioner is essentially the spokesperson for the owners. And when ownership stops standing behind you, your voice loses all power. Here's where it gets uglier. On the surface, the WNBA's growth in sponsorships and expansion might sound impressive, but according to inside sources, that doesn't erase the real problems. Collier exposed something deeper. After 6 years, Angelbert hasn't built trust with either side. The players don't believe in her leadership. The owners don't either. That's about as bad as it gets. The number one complaint? Her people skills. She's not approachable, not relatable, and not communicative. For a league that prides itself on being socially active and politically aware, You simply can't have a commissioner who shuts down or goes silent when things get sensitive. The players are vocal, social media is even louder. But Engelbert? She's often quiet or tone-deaf, and that's exactly what people are calling out. Multiple league insiders told The Athletic, she just doesn't win the room. She doesn't have the charisma to inspire. She's dry, robotic, sometimes even dismissive. And in a world where leadership is half communication, that's a fatal flaw. The commissioner is supposed to rally people, make players feel heard, and sell the league's vision to the world. Instead, Engelbert often leaves people feeling unheard and unimpressed. And now, here's the twist. The person quietly sitting behind all this. Adam Silver. He's the invisible hand, technically her boss. So when Engelbert's leadership collapses, the blame doesn't stop at her. It drips up to him. Silver's reputation as a sharp, innovative leader in the NBA hasn't translated to the WNBA. Think about it. 42% of the WNBA is owned by the NBA. Another 42% is owned by the WNBA itself. And the remaining 16% comes from investors through that capital campaign. Many NBA owners sit on multiple ownership groups. In simple terms, the NBA is the WNBA's main owner. So now we have to ask the big question. Does Adam Silver actually want a strong, independent WNBA commissioner, or does he prefer someone he can control? On Friday, Engelbert publicly called Silver a great supporter. But read between the lines, that sounded less like genuine praise and more like someone who knows they need his backing to survive. Whoever leads the WNBA into the next CBA negotiations, the person responsible for player pay, media deals, and long-term vision, will ultimately be chosen largely based on what Adam Silver decides. His influence isn't just behind the scenes. It's front and center in shaping the future of the league, and that's where the stakes skyrocket. The upcoming collective bargaining agreement, CBA negotiations, are expected to be some of the most consequential in WNBA history, with players demanding better pay structures, expanded travel accommodations, improved marketing strategies, and a stronger vision for the league's long-term growth. Whoever steps in as commissioner next won't just be filling a position, they'll be steering the direction of the league for the next decade. This is about legacy, power, and the future of women's professional basketball. For Kathy Engelbert, the problem is that her leadership style doesn't align with the current moment. The WNBA is no longer the quiet, overlooked league of years past. It's now a growing entertainment property with star power, massive social media engagement, and increasing cultural influence, driven in large part by players like Caitlin Clark, Aja Wilson, Nafisa Collier, and others who have brought new eyes to the sport. These players aren't afraid to speak up, and they expect the league's leadership to match their energy. Engelbert's reserved corporate approach feels outdated in this new era. It's also important to remember the timing. The WNBA is on the cusp of expanding to new cities, negotiating lucrative media rights deals, and deciding how to capitalize on record-breaking attendance and viewership numbers. Under Engelbert, sponsorship revenue has hit all-time highs. But as multiple insiders have pointed out, financial headlines mean nothing without trust and alignment between players, owners, and leadership. The sense inside the league offices and locker rooms is that this disconnect has reached a breaking point. Behind closed doors, some team executives have reportedly started to discuss potential successors. While no names have officially surfaced, the mere fact that conversations like this are happening signals how fragile Engelbert's position has become. Sources close to ownership groups have hinted that they're looking for someone with a more dynamic presence, a strong communicator, and a figure who can bridge the gap between players and boardrooms, something Engelbert has consistently struggled to do. Meanwhile, Adam Silver's role is becoming more visible. Up until now, he's largely maintained a hands-off posture regarding WNBA operations, allowing Engelbert to run the league with autonomy. But as pressure mounts from players, fans, and media, that hands-off approach may no longer be viable. If Engelbert is removed or steps down, Silver will inevitably be the one who signs off on her replacement, which means the choice of the next commissioner will reflect his vision for the WNBA's future. This is also why Collier's remarks were so powerful. They didn't just criticize Engelbert, they implicitly challenged the entire power structure behind her. If Engelbert is indeed on her way out, the transition process will be just as critical as the decision itself. Leadership changes at the top of any sports league are never simple, but in the WNBA's case, the stakes are especially high because of the league's unique ownership structure. its growing cultural relevance, and the tight timeline leading up to the new CBA negotiations. The WNBA cannot afford a drawn-out, messy leadership vacuum. It needs a clear vision, decisive action, and a leader who can command respect from every corner of the basketball world: players, owners, sponsors, media, and fans. This is why insiders believe that Adam Silver's next move will define the league's future more than any sponsorship deal or expansion announcement. Historically, the NBA has taken a cautious, almost experimental approach to the WNBA, seeing it as a growth project rather than a core business. But that mentality is being challenged now more than ever. The success of stars like Caitlin Clark, the surge in television ratings, packed arenas, and booming merchandise sales have proven that the WNBA isn't just a niche property anymore. It's becoming a legitimate entertainment force, and that means leadership has to evolve just as fast as the game itself. Behind the scenes, several influential figures in both the NBA and WNBA reportedly want someone who can modernize the league's identity. They're not just looking for a figurehead. They want someone with a strategic mind, media savvy, and a genuine ability to connect with players. The days of having a commissioner who hides behind carefully scripted statements and avoids uncomfortable conversations are fading. The modern sports landscape is about authenticity, transparency, and agility, especially in women's sports, where players' voices carry immense power on social media. Another key factor is public perception. For months, fans have voiced their frustration online about league decisions, ranging from travel policies to officiating, scheduling, and player marketing. Engelbert's habit of staying silent or offering lukewarm, corporate answers hasn't helped her cause. In contrast, when players like Collier or Clark speak, their words dominate the conversation for days. That imbalance in narrative control is a big reason why insiders say she's lost the room. Sponsors are also paying close attention. While the league has secured record-breaking sponsorship revenue under Engelbert, major brands want a visionary figure at the helm who can carry momentum forward. These companies are investing in a movement, not just a product. If leadership appears disconnected from players and fans, that enthusiasm can fade quickly. Brand loyalty follows personality, and right now, the league's biggest personalities are on the court, not in the commissioner's chair. Meanwhile, ownership groups are strategically positioning themselves for what's next. Some have quietly begun aligning with potential candidates or advocating for certain leadership profiles, such as a former player with business acumen, a media executive with sports experience, or even someone from outside the basketball world who can disrupt traditional thinking. There's also the question of whether the NBA will allow the WNBA to have a truly independent commissioner this time, or keep someone closely tied to its own leadership structure. If Silver chooses to insert himself more directly, it could speed up the transition. But it could also raise new questions about whether the WNBA will ever have the autonomy it needs to fully flourish. For years, some players and executives have quietly voiced concerns that the league's growth has been limited by the NBA's controlling stake. If Silver appoints someone seen as his extension, rather than a bold, independent leader, that could create new tensions, even if it solves the short-term leadership crisis. Timing is everything. The new media rights deals are on the horizon, and networks are watching closely. If Engelbert is ousted before those negotiations begin, the league will need someone who can negotiate aggressively while also inspiring confidence in the product's future. Get that wrong, and years of growth momentum could stall. Get it right, and the WNBA could enter a new era of prosperity and cultural impact. What's happening right now isn't just a leadership shakeup. It's a power shift, from cautious boardroom strategies to a player-driven, media-amplified movement demanding stronger leadership and real vision. Kathy Engelbert's downfall, if it happens, won't just be about her missteps. It will symbolize a changing of the guard in women's basketball. And as the pressure builds, all eyes are turning to Adam Silver. His next decision could either cement the WNBA as a powerhouse in the sports world or keep it tethered to a structure that no longer fits its ambition. One thing is certain, the days of quiet discontent are over. The clock is ticking, and the league's future leadership will shape everything that comes next.